Let's break down the turning points that changed this person's life and reputation. Most people see Starbucks as a corporate giant, but they miss the high-stakes risks and personal tragedy that built it. We're going to look at Howard Schultz's real decision-making framework, from his humble roots to the moment he risked everything on an Italian dream. This isn't just a success story, it's a breakdown of how to spot an outlier opportunity before everyone else does. Before the billions, there was a struggle for basic security. Understanding Schultz's early life explains why he prioritized employee benefits long before it was a corporate trend. Howard Schultz grew up in public housing in Brooklyn, a setting that defined his early perspective on class and opportunity. Life in the projects was a daily lesson in scarcity, forcing him to develop a competitive edge just to stand out. He often speaks about the shame he felt about his family's financial status, which became the primary fuel for his later ambitions. This background is why he often focuses on social mobility in his corporate initiatives today. A pivotal moment occurred when Howard's father, a delivery driver, broke his ankle and was fired without health insurance or severance. Seeing his father crushed by a system that didn't value workers left a permanent mark on Howard's leadership philosophy. This experience is the direct reason Starbucks later became one of the first US companies to offer health insurance to part-time workers. It teaches us that personal pain often dictates the most successful core values of a brand. Schultz saw sports as his only ticket out of the projects, eventually earning a football scholarship to Northern Michigan University. While he eventually realized he wouldn't make it as a professional athlete, the discipline of training stayed with him. This period highlights a common trait in high performers, using a specific skill to bridge the gap between their current reality and a larger world. Even if the initial path fails, the habits formed during the attempt are often the real prize. Transitioning from the projects to the boardroom required a specific set of skills. This is where Schultz learned the mechanics of sales and spotting market outliers. After college, Schultz joined Xerox, which at the time was the premier training ground for high-stakes sales. He spent years cold calling and learning how to handle rejection, a skill he later used to pitch 242 investors for his own company. Many people underestimate the value of a grind job at a major corporation, but for Schultz, it was where he learned how to sell a vision. This is a reminder that professional sales training is often the most valuable asset for any future founder. While working for Hammerplast, a Swedish housewares company, Schultz noticed a tiny shop in Seattle ordering an unusual amount of coffee drip cones. Instead of ignoring the data, he flew to Seattle to investigate why this small retailer was outperforming major department stores. This curiosity is what led him to the original Starbucks founders, Jerry Baldwin and Gordon Bowker. The lesson here is to always investigate the outliers in your data. They often point to the next big market shift. Schultz was so impressed by the founders' passion for dark roasted coffee that he spent a year convincing them to hire him as director of marketing. At the time, Starbucks only sold whole beans, not brewed coffee to go. Schultz saw the potential for a lifestyle brand, while the founders saw themselves as purists. This tension highlights a common business dilemma, the conflict between a founder's original niche and a marketer's vision for scale. A single business trip to Milan changed the trajectory of the global coffee industry. It was here that the third place concept was born. While attending an international housewares show in Milan, Schultz was mesmerized by the local espresso bars. He observed that these bars weren't just about caffeine. They were community hubs, where the barista knew every customer's name. He realized that America lacked a third place, a social environment between work and home. This realization is a classic example of cross-pollination, taking a successful concept from one culture and adapting it to another. When Schultz returned to Seattle and proposed turning Starbucks into a chain of coffee bars, the founders flatly refused. They believed that selling drinks would distract from their core mission of selling high-quality beans. This forced Schultz to make a difficult choice: stay in a comfortable job or leave to prove his vision. When your leadership disagrees with a fundamental market shift, it may be time to seek your own path rather than trying to fix a closed system. With very little capital, Schultz started his own coffee company called Il Giornale. He struggled to find investors, being rejected by hundreds of people who thought the idea of a $3 cup of coffee was insane. He eventually secured funding, partly from the original Starbucks founders, and proved the concept worked by focusing on speed and quality. This phase demonstrates that even the best ideas require an exhausting amount of initial no's before finding traction. In 1987, the opportunity of a lifetime arose when the original Starbucks founders decided to sell. Schultz didn't just buy a company, he bought a future. Schultz raised $3.8 million to buy the Starbucks name and assets from his former employers. He immediately merged Il Giornale with Starbucks and began an aggressive expansion plan. This was a high-leverage move that required absolute confidence in the brand's scalability. For business owners, this illustrates the power of brand equity. He knew the Starbucks name had more weight than Il Giornale ever would. In 1992, Starbucks went public, raising the capital needed to go national and then global. Schultz was wary of Wall Street's pressure for short-term profits, fearing it would erode the company's culture. He used the IPO not just for cash, but as a way to formalize Beanstalk, giving every employee, including part-timers, equity in the company. This shows that scaling doesn't have to mean selling your soul. You can use public markets to reinforce your values. After stepping down as CEO in 2000, Schultz watched as Starbucks overexpanded and lost its soul. In 2008, he returned to the helm, famously closing 7,100 stores for a single afternoon to retrain baristas on how to pull the perfect espresso. He realized that the commodities of coffee had overtaken the experience of the store. This is a vital lesson in brand maintenance. If you lose the core quality that made you famous, no amount of expansion will save you. Schultz's impact goes beyond coffee. His approach to corporate responsibility and brand building offers a blueprint for modern leadership. The third place remains the core of the Starbucks business model, a space that's neither home nor work. By providing free Wi-Fi, comfortable seating, and a consistent atmosphere, Schultz turned a commodity into a destination. Even as the world moves toward mobile ordering, the value of the physical hangout space remains a key differentiator. When building a service business, ask yourself, what emotional need am I fulfilling beyond the transaction? Schultz consistently argued that the customer experience is a direct result of the employee experience. By offering health benefits and college tuition coverage, Starbucks reduced turnover in an industry known for high churn. This wasn't just being nice, it was a calculated business decision to protect the brand's reputation. High-quality service requires a workforce that feels invested in the company's long-term success. Schultz has never shied away from social issues, from race relations to veteran hiring, which has often sparked public debate. While some argue a CEO should stay neutral, Schultz believes a brand must have a conscience to resonate with modern consumers. This approach carries risks, including boycotts and political backlash, but it creates a deep sense of loyalty among those who share the company's values. Leadership often requires taking a stand, even when it's unpopular. Howard Schultz's story proves that a clear vision, combined with an obsessive focus on culture and employee value, can turn a simple commodity into a global powerhouse. The big idea is to identify a cultural gap, like the third place, and have the courage to pursue it despite the no's. Use his journey as a reminder that your background doesn't define your ceiling, but it can define your values. If this breakdown helped you see the business of coffee in a new light, subscribe to Famous Life Bio for more biography breakdowns that give you the real context behind the success. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more timeline-driven biography videos every week.